Like this is right now I'm playing through the effects that I use for our live show actually. So I could walk you through some of the sounds that I use on the guitar, which I mean that might be kind of interesting. Like for example, when we play Pixelated Girl, at the end I'm doing Pixelated Girl. Got a little flanger, compressor,
Nice.
some delay.
So with your recent output of live shows you've been doing in Tokyo, and like I mentioned before about those great promotional t-shirts, I'm going to keep talking about those t-shirts, by the way.
Yeah.
It's like people...
You're sending like not subtle signals at all. Like, give me a t-shirt.
No. You know, I'm cool like that. But no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like trying to imagine like what are your live shows like in that sense, because when you're doing live shows like that, obviously when I'm thinking about like electronic music and such, and how sometimes like conveying that to a live environment obviously can be sometimes slightly different, depending obviously which bit of kit you're traveling with and how you're actually doing these performances.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I can talk about that at length. So before I get into that a little bit, QI, how do you feel like our live shows have gone so far?
So, the live show is really amazing for me because I actually wasn't really interested in it, but I was seeing the fans in front of me for the first time and seeing them dancing. It was a lot of fun for me, and I felt it was very rewarding. めっちゃ楽しかった。
Yeah, I had a lot of fun too. We played our first shows as Milk Talk ever just about 1 month ago in Tokyo. So one of QI's friends asked us to play at their pretty big event with a lot of like well-known, not really funk type artists, but sort of like kind of post-future bass. It was this cool event where a lot of really sort of modern underground Tokyo music combined with live illustration. Like there was some VJ stuff as well, but also these different illustrators who were on stage with the artists and making artwork at the same time that the musicians were playing. So it was a really interesting audiovisual experience. And we got the offer to play that, which was kind of the flame or that kick in the pants that we needed to figure out how to bring our music to the stage for the first time. Because for the first 2 years of Milk Talk, it was just like remote. Maybe we would get together every once in a while and do some video stuff, or QI would come down to my place here in Himeji, which is near Kobe in Osaka. And we would track the vocals here. But basically Milk Talk was and still is remote for the most part. But we got this offer to play this cool show. And then because of that, we were able to book a couple more. Once we got that offer, I spent about a month or two just scrambling and trying to figure out, okay, how do I play this music that I've made mainly on a computer with like vintage synthesizers that break really easily? How do I bring that on the road? So at first I watched as many performances of other kind of electronic dance sort of artists and on YouTube, and seeing what people were doing and making my own judgments as to what works and what doesn't. Like XL Middleton, again, he has a great live show. Saucy Lady, has a really cool live show as well.
Saucy Lady Yuki Kanasaka. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to see her sometime. She's so cool.
Yeah.
And also, not really in the boogie funk, modern funk world, but are you familiar with Harvey Sutherland?
Of course.
Oh yeah, he's killing it these days.
He's hitting another level, isn't he? Really?
So, yeah. His Boiler Room set from a few years ago is really interesting because for most of the set, it's just him with his Rhodes and his Juno, and like a laptop. But he totally rocked it. So. On the other hand, there were some bigger artists who I will not name because I had kind of a negative opinion of their live show. Where, for example, especially with electronic music where the bass lines tend to be repetitive, there was one act where for one of their songs, somebody on stage was playing the bass line, which is originally like a house track, and they played it on, a Fender jazz bass for like 3 or 4 minutes, but it's just the same bass line. And I thought to myself, that's not really doing it for me. There's no drama. There's no dynamics. So that kind of led me to, for our stuff, I try and play as many parts as I can and as many different parts as I can. So my computer has the music. There's parts that are played automatically because I can't do everything at the same time. But instead of saying, oh, for this song, I'm going to play guitar, and for that song, I'm going to play the keys, it's more like for the verse, I'm going to play the synth leads. For the pre-chorus, I'm going to play the bass line. For the chorus, I'm going to switch to guitar. And by switching parts as quickly as possible and almost kind of panicking, I hope that makes things a little more, I guess I would say exciting or more alive for the audience. Because when you go see a live show, your eyes are open. It's not just about what you're hearing, but it's also watching the performer's body language. I want to see someone who is expressing with their whole self on stage. I want to see not just their musicianship, but their essence. So I think I try to make my essence a little more readily available by panicking and doing as much as I can.
And you're doing this on your own as well. So is QI helping you with some of the instruments as well? Or?
She helps me with her energy.
Right.
But yeah, she's doing vocals, and we have her set up with right before our first show, like very last minute, we found a really cool vocal reverb pedal. So she's able to kind of change the sonic space of her voice throughout the show. But at the same time, I'm jumping between my guitar and my micro cord as quickly as possible.
Amazing.
I'm still not 100% there. Before our next gigs, I have to practice a little bit more. But I think for live shows, like if there is no chance of making mistakes, it's kind of boring. Like I'd rather see somebody on stage taking chances,
take the risk,
and pushing their limits, and maybe taking their music to a place that they hadn't taken it before, as opposed to just playing the song note for note on the record and being like, hey, here's my song, all right, good night.
It's a really valid point, really, because it just makes me think about, in general, when you listen to like a live version of a track, sometimes we're closer to the live version because it just feels a lot more raw and a different kind of look at the track as well. Whereas if you got a live version and it's like exactly the same as the studio version, there's no gain there almost.
Yeah, like what's the point? It's, I mean, if you're into that, more power to you. But
yeah, just to like
what
go on.
Go ahead.
No, I was about to say a little like side note is that I did see a band not too long ago, another very big band, Karajabin, and they're like a 3-piece band. They're like worldwide.
yeah.
They're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. And what blows my mind about them is it's an interesting piece, really, because what they sound in studio is actually what they sound live, because they're just a 3-piece band and they all just have their parts in and they just sing together.
Right.
But what they do in their live shows, though, they just go off. Where you know that the studio version is meant to like stop there. They extend that track by another 5 minutes. It was just like, wow. And they have like proper solos in there. But yeah.
Yeah, I recently had the experience to see Thundercat.
Yes.
Who came to Osaka, and
he's amazing.
It was
live.
it was incredible. Like I had seen some videos on YouTube, but seeing it in person is just it's a totally different experience. And what I realized about Thundercat stuff is in the studio, his songs tend to be short. Like most of the Thundercat songs are like 2 or 3 minutes.
3-minute tracks, yeah.
Yeah, but seeing him play them live, I realized he's writing them as though they're jazz standards, where you kind of have a chord progression that it goes through, like giant steps or something. So he'll play the head, and then he was touring with the drummer Lewis Cole, who's a phenomenal drummer and musician in his own right. So, they'll play Nobody Move, There's Blood on the Floor, get through that a little bit, and then just totally rip over the chords for like 5 or 6 minutes, and then finally come back, somebody tell me how I'm supposed to feel. And I go, oh. So this is just like, it's like the new version of Mahavishnu Orchestra, except they don't do any of that stuff on the studio. It's only the live version where you hear them just like explode and go crazy. And I haven't figured out how to explode on stage with Milk Talk yet, but that's on the way. Yeah. I'm in the woodshed trying to get my chops up to Thundercat level, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. So listeners, you know what you got to do. If you ever hear Milk Talk is in town, you know you got to do. You got to get right at the front and then watch Miles switch between instruments.
Yeah, and try and catch me slipping.
Amazing.